You know, this show goes both ways. It's not just me ranting into the camera. We're on send and receive. So we've asked for your feedback about this program, and you have sent it. First up, Mike Evans wrote, have you ever traveled outside of the U.S., or is your ignorance gained from others? Fair question. Mostly book learning, my ignorance. As Your King wrote this, please give your guests time to speak. This proving your point and exposing the truth. Calm down and restrain yourself. The two things I can't do, but thank you. Joseph Gallo wrote this, Tucker Carlson has the most undeserved ego on his show. I wonder if he knows how much of a joke he is to serious people. No, I don't, and I don't want to know. And finally, C. Mac wrote, we all know Tucker is the Kardashian of cable news, leaving aside the fact that Kardashians are on cable news. And by the way, I'm pregnant. Just want to announce that. Tomorrow, a variety of topics. Tonight, it means what's next when the Electoral College officially votes for president. That happens December 19th, and that's the day on which the deal is sealed. And yet some electors believe it is possible to hand the presidency over to someone other than Donald Trump. Could this actually happen? Should it happen? Joining us now, two of those electors who are pushing for this, Brett Tufalo from Washington State and Michael Baca from Colorado. Gentlemen, thanks a lot for joining us. This is the kind of topic that just infuriates people watching the show. And I just want to say on the outset, I think you both are sincere. I'm not here to attack you at all. I really want to know kind of how you're thinking about this. There's no Republican candidate, as you know, Brett, who has the support that Trump has. And if you were to do this, you would send a really clear message to people that it's not a democracy, it's an oligarchy, a small number of people run it. And wouldn't you be thereby ensuring social chaos? I mean, democracy is a safety valve that keeps people calm, and when they think they have no control, they freak out and storm the Bastille. Isn't this reckless?
Well, when the Founding Fathers set this system up, they set it up specifically this way for a situation like this.
Right.
And I believe the Founding Fathers were geniuses and wrote one of the most amazing documents in the history of mankind. And I don't consider it a good thing to question what they put into place.
Well, I don't think they actually spoke on Trump specifically that I remember. I haven't seen the documents in a while, but I don't think he's in there.
No, he's not. But they spoke very clearly, especially Alexander Hamilton in Federalist 68. They spoke very clearly about someone getting into office who was unfit for the position. Right. And they left that up to a small number of people who could look into the issue and decide. They specifically left it up to those people, 538 at this point, and that was their plan all along. And so all we're trying to do is honor what the Founding Fathers gave us.
And as I said at the outset, I mean, I give you guys both credit for good intentions. I don't think you're, trying to hurt anyone in doing this. I think you're people of goodwill. But Michael, if you are sincerely concerned as a former Marine about the direction this country is about to take under Trump, why wouldn't you do the more obvious thing, which is try to convince wise people to join him in the administration and help administer this government and move it in a good direction? Isn't that a better and more obvious choice?
Well, look at the people who he's surrounding himself with. We're going to have Steve Bannon, who I think is absolutely deplorable, and I do not think that is a man that we should have.
I get it. You don't like some, but why aren't you volunteering?
Tucker, I'm sorry, but we're not here to attack. We're not here to
I'm not
engage
attacking.
in a blah, blah, blah.
So
I would apologize if you let me say this. The people that he's already surrounding himself with are not good. They don't reflect the values that I believe the Americans hold. I do not believe that the Americans had.
Michael, I'm trying to be patient, but the guy's appointed like 3 people. I mean, there are 3,760 positions open.
With a leader of the alt-right movement?
There are 3 people appointed. So, but what about you and your friends who are decent?
Of the people he's appointed reflect the values of white nationalists, which I do not believe reflect the values of Americans.
Now, I said I took you seriously, and now I don't, because that's just stupid, and you have no supporting evidence for it. So I'm going to have to go to your colleague here. No, because you're throwing white supremacy around, and you honestly have no idea what you're talking about.
Supremacy. You're putting words in my mouth, Tucker.
If you disagree with their views on things, state what they are, but instead you're name-calling. So I'm going to go over to your friend Brett here and ask a pretty simple question, which is, isn't the main point of this system, as designed by the founders whose wisdom you revere, rightly so, to preserve a strata of social stability upon which you can build civil society and economy and the rest? What you're proposing would really cause chaos and a lot of drama that would be hard to recover from. Do you recognize that?
Well, I certainly recognize what the Founding Fathers put into place. They put into place a release valve, in case of emergency firebox for a situation like this. And we want a conversation with all the other electors out there and we're not going to tell them what to do. We're simply going to have a conversation about what they think is best, and hopefully they will agree with us and come together around a Hamilton candidate, such as a John Kasich or a Bloomberg.
Okay.
And
I think it'd be
people want to
Kasich,
know
but there
more
may be
about really what
another one. Okay. Well, Lisa, we're almost out of time, and now I know I cut you off, Michael, because I thought you were unfair, so I just want to give you one last shot. You were posturing about your moral fitness and the lack of moral fitness of Trump's appointees. Aren't you bound to support a specific candidate? Are you allowed to do this as an elector? I mean, fill me in here. Wouldn't you be violating an agreement you made?
We have, under our Article 2 in the Constitution, under the 12th Amendment, we have the right to choose, and we have to be able to come to around a consensus candidate, a Hamilton Republican, because there are many fine conservatives out there, and I'm actually rather excited to see what Republicans do with full control, because, if their values and if what is going to happen in our country, I'm excited to see, because if they're right, well then, we proved us wrong, and I'm not too stubborn to change. And I think that's what's something we're getting misguided on.
All right, gentlemen, thanks a lot for explaining yourselves.
Everybody should look. Everybody should look at HamiltonElectors.com.
I tried to get on it today, and I couldn't. You need a new web designer. But anyway, gentlemen, thanks a lot. I appreciate it.
I didn't say white supremacy. You're putting words in my mouth, Tucker.
Looks like a nice little guy, actually. Go home to mommy. Go home. Bye. Go home to mommy. Go home to mommy. Tell her to tuck you in bed. He's such a nice guy.
We've got a very
every other judicial opening. This could really be his legacy, is returning the court to a more constitutional
I think he will, because he
restraint.
put out the numbers. I will just correct one thing, though. There was one other moment where he expressed humility, was my favorite. He was saying, there are going to be a lot of attack ads against me. All of them lies. And then he paused and goes, well, not all of them lies. Which I loved. But, I mean, is that the list of 21? He's not going to pick. I mean, why wouldn't he pick Ted Cruz? I know he's not on the list. Well, they'll win it the first time, for sure, Jessica, because the first appointment just brings the court back to stasis, to the balance it had for,
And we have to
years.
pray that RBG lives forever.
That'd be Ruth Bader Ginsburg.
Yeah, sorry.
Those of us who are not liberal.
Literally. You still know who she is.
But
she's
it's
the
the
little
next
cute
one.
one that
It's
sleeps.
the second appointment if one of the
Absolutely.
People from the left leaves the court. I mean, that's a real fight. But what do Democrats do? They don't have the majority.
No, there's not a lot that you can do. I mean, you can, pray a little bit about it, find God. Liberals find God about this.
So it really is kind of bringing religion back to the Democratic Party.
Well, I mean, we'll see, how the lay of the land.
The fast response of an Ohio State University police officer, pictured there on the screen. He shot the killer dead within minutes. That officer is being praised tonight as a hero, of course. But not everyone on the activist left is impressed by what he did. Some have imputed racial motives to the shooting. Among those is radio show host and author Tariq Nasheed. He tweeted this yesterday. So white officer Alan Harukjo shot and killed the black Somali stabbing suspect in Ohio and is being paraded as a hero. That's interesting. Well, Tariq joins us now to explain. Tariq, thanks a lot for coming on the show.
Fight.
Thank you so much for having me, Tucker.
Oh, of course. This struck me when I read it as a pretty cowardly thing for you to say for a bunch of reasons, but mostly because it's so imprecise. Okay. You don't spell out what you mean. You say that that's interesting. Why is that interesting? Would it have been better if this guy, the murderer, had continued to hack people with a butcher knife? Is that what you're saying? What are you saying?
No, I'm saying, Tucker, what's cowardly is to make up a false narrative that I didn't say or even imply by saying that I was not impressed or I was dissatisfied with the police's work. And basically, that tweet was very vague. It was very neutral. It was basically a statement. It wasn't even my opinion. So for you to start off the segment saying that it was cowardly, that's disingenuous.
Look, I'm having you on, Tariq, to explain yourself, and I'm asking you, what did you mean by that? Is the guy,
and I'll be glad to do that.
Who shot this guy a hero, or isn't he?
I'll be glad to answer that, but I don't want to do the false narrative thing because that's just very disingenuous, and I like to bring truth to power.
The question.
Now, let me explain what I meant.
Yeah.
No, I didn't think that the guy was wrong for what he did. The guy was a hero. The comment wasn't meant to racialize the actual shooting in the event itself. When that happened, online, there were a lot of people who played the race card, and the minute they found out who the suspect was, they kept talking about black Somalian, then they started talking about Black Lives Matter, then they started talking about Obama, then they racialized it. So that's normal.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
So there's only so much I can take. I spent all afternoon listening to your podcast, which is the most racialized thing I think I've ever listened to in my life, and not
which is not true. Which is not true.
Let me say this. You sent a series of tweets here. noting the race and the nationality of the terrorist. And you also put quotes around the word terrorist. If you drive your car through a crowd of people and murder someone with a knife, are you not a terrorist? Why did you put quotes around?
I didn't say that the man. I didn't say that the man wasn't a terrorist. Tucker, are you going to say anything honest before we get the interview started, or it's just going to be a bunch of projection
of your
what you meant.
Why did you put
suspected white supremacist views
around the word terrorist? Okay.
Because I don't know if I didn't know if the guy was a terrorist or not. I didn't know if he was a suspect. I didn't know if that was the only suspect. So I didn't have all the facts. I wanted to wait for all the facts to come in before I labeled people, which is what you should do.
Okay. If someone drives his car through a crowd of people, here's what we knew from the first moment this happened. A guy drove his car through a crowd of people, intentionally hitting them, and then he attacked one of them with a knife. What else do you need to know in order to conclude that man is committing an act of terrorism? What's the missing piece there for you?
We didn't get all the facts initially because initially they said that there were other suspects. So I didn't have all the facts in. So I wasn't in the position to label anybody or bring my opinion to the table. I wanted to wait to see what all the facts were before I labeled people. And that's what you should do.
No, you didn't. What you were trying to do is incite race hatred, which is what you do for a living, making this about race from the very start, when in fact race played no role. Now, you make the claim repeatedly in your writings and on your show that this is a, quote, white supremacist country. The guy who did this was imported here at taxpayer expense from Somalia. He was living, I believe, entirely on taxpayer expense. It was government-subsidized education at Ohio State. Why would a white supremacist country import Africans in large numbers and then pay for them to live here? I don't understand. It doesn't, speaking of narratives, doesn't really fit your narrative, does it?
So we don't live in a system of complete white supremacy? Everybody's lying, Tucker?
Huh. So the overwhelming majority of immigrants to this country are non-white. Why would a white supremacist country import massive numbers of non-white immigrants? Not to blow your mind,
when you say non-white, I mean, there's Hispanic people who you say are non-white, but they're labeled as white. There are a lot of people who are classified as white that you say are non-white. So you play this racialized game. So who's non-white and who's white?
Okay, look. I guess the point I'm making is that it's not 1955. It's a totally different country from the one you seem to be addressing on Twitter and in your podcast. Then answer this.
How's it different, sir?
In your tweet, it's different in this way. It is an entirely multi-ethnic country. It's not just black people and white people, one oppressing the other. It's a much more complicated landscape, as you may have noticed if you go outside. And so when you tweet out that this is a story of a white man killing a black man, that is misleading. That's not at all what happened. There was no racial motive that we know of here, and you're implying there was.
I didn't say there was a racial motive.
Your financial. Well, of course you did. You said that white officers shot a black Somali suspect.
Tucker. This is Fox News. You guys are the race casino. Forget about the race card. You play the race casino. So it's very hypocritical for me to specify the race of a suspect and a police officer, and that is supposed to be some kind of problem when you guys do it all the time and arbitrarily blame black people for everything negative in this country.
Here, I'm not even going to rise to the bait. Let me just say that I think when normal people, and I'm excluding you from that category, watched what happened yesterday, they didn't see the race of the terrorist or the race of the cop. They saw an American stopping a lunatic from murdering more people on a college campus.
So why did your white supremacist colleagues make it racial? So why did they make it racial? Why did so many people in the right? How did they make it racial?
I don't know one person on any network who looked at this and said, here you have a white man killing a black man. They said, here you have a police officer, representative of
they said black Somalian,
stopping a mass
Black
murder
Lives
from
Matter.
Continuing.
So was it Black Lives Matter fault? You guys always seem to blame Black Lives Matter, and Black Lives Matter is any black person you choose to make Black Lives Matter. So
okay. I'm missing the thread of your argument, but I think you've made
you're not missing it.
Yeah,
you got it.
I'm not.
You're a smart guy. Suspected white supremacists are very smart, so you got it.
Right. Thanks for joining us. I appreciate it. Well, and today, ISIS, through its
fatality.
Imagine the pain that I bring if I say
All right, look, we appreciate you coming on. We know how busy you are.
I'm loving it. No, I don't get tired. It's lovely, right? High energy.